In this video, we are going to be creating a program to illustrate the use of functions in C programming. And to illustrate that, we are going to be creating a program that will basically compute the square of even numbers from 1 to 20. So I already created a file and I'm naming it square.c. So we are already familiar with all the codes that are so far in this particular file. So the first thing that we need to create what we call a function prototype. All right, so we'll just come over here, jump 2 lines, and I can create my what you call a function prototype. So I want to create a function, and the name of that function is square, and given any element of square, and okay. So the name of the function is square, and this is how we write a function. We write the name of the function, and the name of the function should be suggestive. That is, it is basically describe what the function is doing. Since in this case, I want to create a function that will square numbers, so I am naming it square. And this function, next we can indicate the return type of the function. This function is going to perform a work, and it's going to return to me a square of a number, and that square is going to be an integer. So I will basically give it an integer, and that square function will square it and return to me an integer, a squared integer number. So square, and then and then within the parentheses after the name of the function, we have what we call we declare what we call a parameter. Now a parameter, some functions might require some things to carry out its task. For instance, in this case, since we are squaring an integer, that means the square function will require us to input an integer that the square function is going to square for us. So in this case, it requires something, and that's something that we give to it, that we define that function need, is called a parameter. So I'll indicate that it needs a parameter, and that the parameter is going to be of integer data type. I can write the name, any name, to suggest the name that I'm going to give that particular parameter. So I say let's in this case I have named it as int x, but this is basically optional. I just need to indicate the return type of the parameter. In this case also, it only has a single parameter. That is why I just write int. If it has more than multiple parameters, then I can write the parameters separated by a comma. But in this case, just need a single parameter. So let me indicate the name of the parameter. There's no trouble with that. And then the next thing, I need to put a statement terminator. This is the way we write a function prototype. So a function prototype, and what is a function prototype? A function prototype is a way of telling the compiler that there exists a function within this particular file after function main. If I don't put a function prototype, then I have to write my functions before function main. Because if the program, I'm going to call this function within function main. Now, if I write it without this function prototype, then the compiler will not know where this particular function exists within my program. But since I've indicated a function prototype, now it is left for the compiler now to search through within this file to locate where this particular function is, because I've already informed it that there exists a function called square that is going to return an integer and is going to require an integer parameter. So it's left for the compiler now look through within this file and locate these functions. So that is the essence of using function prototype. We are going to see it more clearly because we are going to remove the function prototype and then try to run our program and see whether our program is going to work. Okay, so I have this now. Next thing is for me to go to function main and continue my coding. So I want it to compute the square of even numbers from 1 to 20. All right, so now I need to iterate through numbers 1 to 20. For that, I'm going to make use of for loop to generate the even numbers from 1 to 20. So I can make use of for loop. I can say for int x equals to 2, because we know the first even number is 2, and then the condition is that x should be less than or equals to 20. And then we know that after 2, the next even number is 4, the next even number is 6, the next even number is 8, and we can see that the common difference between these even numbers is 2. So I can just write a step of 2. So I can just say x using compound assignment operation, x plus equals to x plus equals to 2. So I'm telling the compiler that the next number is going to be 4. So by simply adding 2 to 2 we have 4, adding 2 to 4 we have 6. Okay, and then now I'm going to invoke my function, though I haven't created the function yet, but I'm going to invoke it and then I'm going to go later and create it. So square x, so I'm going to invoke it by invoking I mean calling the function. So to call a function, we just write the name of the function followed by the parentheses, and if it require if we have defined a parameter in the function definition, then we have to pass that an argument. So in the function definition we refer to this x as parameter, but here we call it as an argument, So while we are calling the function, we refer to that as an argument. All right, so I can now let me go now and create my function square. So let me just make a comment here, n4, and then let me make a comment here. This is a function prototype, function prototype. All right, so here we are. Now the next thing that I'm going to do now, I'm going to go down, and then I'm going to so outside function main, I'm still in function main. So now here I'm going to define my new function square. So I'm going to write, and it must match the function prototype, just as the way we write our function prototype. The function definition header must match what we have in the function prototype. So int square, and then I have int x, and then now I have my function body, and then I can write what the code that are going to be within this function body, and what I want the function to do for me is just to return the square of x. So it's just a return. Now return statement, return keyword is a keyword used to return the value that we want to return to the line of code that calls that particular function. So in this case, we want our function square to simply giving any input to square it and return the squared value to the line of code that call that particular function. In this case, we are calling this function in line 15. Now we want this as soon as we come here to line number 15. Now the program control will transfer to line number 23 where we have our function here, and then it will enter into this function and then perform whatsoever line of code is being written in this particular function. So in this case, it's going to return x multiplied by x, which is simply the square of x. So it's going to return x times x, which is the square of x. So let me make a comment here, and function square, function square. So that is what it's going to do. It just return it, and then it will come back here, and then there's no any line of code, and then it will go to the next iteration here, and then increment 2 by 2, which is going to be 4, and then it will invoke square and then pass 4 as argument, and then it will return here, and then return 4 times 4, which is 8, and then we have it here. But we are not, as you can see, we are not printing out anything. There's no any output. So we want to be outputting the square to the terminal. So I can just modify this line here. I can have printf, and then I can have all right, so I can see the square of okay, the square of x d is this. So I can have x So basically what I'm saying here is we know that this x depend on what we have at that at the particular iteration. For the first iteration we have x equals to 2, so we can have the square of 2 is and we are going to it's going to print 4 after after calculating the square of 2, which is 4, and then we are going to have this printed out. So it's going to now, as it calls square, it is going to transfer to this function and then perform this calculation, return 2 times 2, which is 4, and then it's going to return here. And then we jump to the next iteration, which is 4, and that is how it will keep incrementing. The loop, the for loop will keep running until we have reached the loop termination condition, which is when x is less than or equals to 20. So now let's now go and run this program, and then if there's any error that we couldn't see here, we'll come back and fix that particular error. So I'll just go to the terminal here, come to the terminal here, and go here. So I'm going to navigate to the directory where I have this particular file, and then compile it with my GCC compiler. So we have GCC, and then I have named the function as square.c, and then I want to output it as square. So let's run it, and as we can see, there's no any error. So now we can run our program and see the output. So we have square, so a square up to, okay, the output is not friendly. Let's make a little modification to this. So after printing this, let us just make a new line. So adding a new line character, so that after each printout we should have a new line space. So let me come here, clear the terminal again, and then now let's run it and see. So as we can see, the square of 2 is 4, the square of 4 is 16, the square of 6 is 6, square of 8 is 64, as we up to 20, which are the even numbers. From 1 to 20 is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20. So as we can see, this program is working perfectly. But as I said earlier, we want to illustrate the advantage of using this function prototype. So now let's do away with this function prototype, and then let's try to, I can do away with it by adding it as a comment. So let me comment it out, and then now I'll try to compile it within my GCC compiler and then see how it's going to be. So I'll just come off here, and my GCC compiler here, I'll have it here, and then run it. So as you can see, we have an error, implicit declaration of function square, because the program, the compiler doesn't know anything square. So this is the error that I was warning about. That is the rationale of using function prototype. But if we don't want to make use of function prototype, still there is a way around it. What we have to do is just we make sure that our function definition comes before function main. So I can just have this one here, I can paste it here, and now this program will work, will compile successfully. So I'll just go over the terminal again, and then try to recompile it, and then see what it's going to be. So as we can see, the program has compiled successfully, and I can run it. And as you can see, our program is generating the right output. So that is, we can but using function prototype is very important, so that we can write our functions either before or after function main, and we won't have any issue. So thank you for taking your time to watch this video, and please subscribe to this channel if you haven't subscribed, and click the bell icon so that you can have access to any video that I uploaded in the future. Thank you.